Before we begin, please note that this video contains discussions of graphic violence, abuse, and sensitive content. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Hong Kong is a city known for its energy, culture, and bright lights. But beneath its vibrant surface, there are dark stories that most people can't even imagine. One such story is the Hello Kitty murder, a case so shocking it became infamous worldwide. This is the story of Fan Man-yee, a young woman who endured a tragic life and an even more tragic end. Today, we'll explore not just the crime, but the lives of those involved and the haunting legacy it left behind. Fan Man-yee was born in 1976 and faced hardship from the very beginning. Abandoned as a child, she grew up in an orphanage, a place where love and security were scarce. As a teenager, she left the orphanage and stepped into a world that wasn't any kinder. To survive, she worked as a nightclub hostess and later turned to sex work. During this time, she developed a drug addiction, which added to the struggles she faced every day. Despite her hardships, Fan held on to dreams of a better life. But these dreams would be cut short when she crossed paths with a man named Chan Man-lok. Chan Man-lok was a 34-year-old gangster with ties to the infamous Hong Kong Triads. The Triads, known for their violence and illegal operations, were a feared presence in the city. Chan himself was a man of wealth and influence, but beneath his flashy exterior, he was cruel and remorseless. When Fan met him in 1997, she likely saw him as another client. Little did she know, this encounter would change her life forever. In 1999, Fan made a desperate decision. She stole 20,000 Hong Kong dollars from Chan, the equivalent of about 2,500 US dollars. Why she took the money is unclear, but it may have been a cry for help in her desperate situation. When Chan discovered the theft, his reaction was swift and brutal. He demanded repayment with interest. Though Fan tried to comply, Chan wasn't satisfied. He didn't just want his money back. He wanted revenge. On March 17, 1999, Fan Man-yee was abducted and taken to a dingy, unkempt apartment in the Kowloon district of Hong Kong. This apartment, shared by her captors, Chan Man-lok, Leung Shing-cho, and Leung Wai-lun, was filled with evidence of drug use and neglect. But for Fan, it would become a chamber of unimaginable horror. From the moment she was brought there, Fan was subjected to relentless physical and psychological torture. Her captors, fueled by drugs and hatred, seemed to take perverse pleasure in her suffering. Their actions went beyond revenge for the stolen money. It was as if they wanted to erase her very humanity. Fan was beaten daily with metal bars, wooden sticks, and other makeshift weapons. These beatings left her body bruised, battered, and broken. They didn't stop there. Her captors tied her up, leaving her hanging in uncomfortable positions for hours on end. One particularly cruel act involved burning her skin with melted plastic. They would light plastic straws or sheets, drip the scalding liquid onto her skin, and laugh as she writhed in pain. The smell of burning flesh filled the apartment, but they were unmoved. They also poured chili oil into her wounds and forced her to consume it, further tormenting her. At times, they urinated on her and made her drink it as an act of humiliation. Fan, too weak to resist, had no choice but to comply. The torture wasn't just physical, it was psychological as well. Her captors taunted her endlessly, mocking her cries for help. Fan begged for mercy, but her words fell on deaf ears. For over a month, she endured this daily abuse with no one to rescue her. Fan was deprived of food and water, her body weakening as the days passed. Malnutrition set in, and she became too frail to even sit up. Her captors, instead of showing pity, took this as another opportunity to torment her further. They hung her up like a puppet, tying her arms and legs to mimic a standing position, despite her inability to move on her own. Fan's ordeal became a twisted form of entertainment for her captors. Sometimes they forced her to smile or pose as if she were having fun, all while they took photos or mocked her. This wasn't just violence, it was dehumanization on the most horrific scale. On April 15th, 1999. After over a month of torture, Fan Man-yee's body could take no more. She succumbed to her injuries and the extreme malnutrition she endured. Even in death, her captors showed her no mercy. They saw her death as a nuisance, rather than a tragedy. Their treatment of her remains only added to the horror of this case. They boiled her body to dispose of it more easily, discarding her bones as if they were garbage. Her skull, however, was placed inside a Hello Kitty mermaid doll, a final macabre act of desecration. The trial began in 2000 and drew massive attention. Chan and his accomplices claimed Fan's death was accidental, but the evidence told a different story. In the end, they were convicted of manslaughter, not murder. The jury couldn't definitively prove they intended to kill Fan, though the torture made their intentions clear. The men received life sentences, but with the possibility of parole after 20 years. For many, this punishment felt like an insult to Fan's memory. Protesters demanded justice, saying the system had failed her once again. With the truth now revealed, the legal proceedings against the perpetrators began. The trial of Chan Man-lok, Leung Shing-cho, and Leung Wai-lun became a media sensation, not just because of the horrific nature of the crime, but also due to the public shock that such a thing could happen in Hong Kong, a city known for its wealth, modernity, and bustling streets. The trial began in 2000, and it quickly captivated the attention of the public. The details that emerged during the proceedings were shocking, and many of the facts about Fan Man-yee's torture were difficult for people to comprehend. The court heard the gruesome account of her abduction, the month-long period of abuse, and the final horrific disposal of her remains. The image of her skull inside the Hello Kitty doll was deeply disturbing and left a lasting impact on anyone who heard about it. The defense attorneys tried to argue that the defendants were not fully responsible for their actions due to their mental states, specifically pointing to their involvement with drugs and the violent lifestyle they led as members of the triads. However, this argument did little to sway the court or the public. The brutal nature of the crime, especially the dehumanizing treatment of Fan, overshadowed any claim of diminished responsibility. As the trial unfolded, more chilling details emerged. Leung Wai-lun, the 15-year-old girl who had witnessed the crime and had been living in the apartment with the perpetrators, took the stand. She testified about what she had seen, recounting the beatings, the burns, and the humiliation that Fan had been forced to endure. Her testimony was heartbreaking. It revealed the depth of cruelty that Fan had been subjected to, and how the captors showed no remorse for their actions. The jury and the public were shaken to their core as they learned of the level of depravity involved. It was clear that Fan's torture had been prolonged, not because of a robbery gone wrong, but because of the sadistic enjoyment the perpetrators seemed to take in her suffering. In the end, all three men were found guilty of the horrific crime. They were sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Fan Man-yee, with Chan Man-lok receiving a sentence of 20 years for the lesser charge of manslaughter. The other two men, Leung Shing-cho and Leung Wai-lun, were both sentenced to death, though this was later commuted to life imprisonment under Hong Kong's law at the time. The trial concluded with a sense of justice for Fan Man-yee, but the case left the public in deep shock and disbelief. For weeks, the news was filled with stories and analysis, with most people struggling to comprehend the horror that had taken place. The details of the case, especially the way the perpetrators had treated the remains, were beyond what anyone could have imagined. The public reaction to the Hello Kitty murder was one of horror, anger, and disbelief. People in Hong Kong and around the world expressed their outrage at the cruelty and brutality displayed by the three men. There was widespread sympathy for Fan Man-yee, a young woman who had lived through so much suffering, only to be subjected to this unimaginable fate. Many felt a deep sense of injustice for her tragic death and the way her body had been desecrated after her passing. In Hong Kong, the case became infamous and became part of local lore, with people remembering the horrific nature of the crime. News outlets and media reports extensively covered the trial, dissecting every detail of the case, while also shedding light on the lives of the perpetrators and their affiliations with the triads. The brutal nature of the crime seemed to expose the hidden underworld of Hong Kong, drawing attention to the dangerous lives of criminals involved in organized crime. Despite the conviction of the three men, the case left a scar on the community. For many, it was a reminder of how deep the darkness can go in a city filled with light and promise. People struggled with the fact that something so monstrous could happen in their midst. The Hello Kitty murder became not just a story of a horrific crime, but a stark reflection of the complexities and hidden dangers in modern society. The aftermath of the Hello Kitty murder left a long-lasting legacy that impacted not only the people directly involved, but also the entire city of Hong Kong and beyond. This horrific crime became more than just a brutal murder. It became a symbol of the darkest aspects of human nature and a wake-up call about the dangers of unchecked violence, criminal networks, and the hidden lives led by those involved in organized crime. One of the most chilling aspects of the case was the contrast between the innocent, childlike image of Hello Kitty and the gruesome reality of the crime. The image of Fan's skull inside the Hello Kitty doll became synonymous with this tragedy, forever linking the cartoon character with horror in the minds of those who heard the story. The once innocent face of the popular character became tainted in the public's eye, representing the brutal, senseless nature of the crime. People across Hong Kong, and even globally, began associating Hello Kitty with violence and depravity, an ironic and unsettling twist for a symbol that was originally meant to represent joy, innocence, and childhood. The legacy of the Hello Kitty murder remains embedded in popular culture, where it has inspired books, documentaries, and discussions about the extremes of human behavior. The case raised difficult but important questions about society's dark undercurrents and how certain crimes, once exposed, can alter the way we see the world. It serves as a painful reminder that violence can lurk in the most unexpected places and that we must remain vigilant in protecting the vulnerable in our communities. The Hello Kitty murder will never be forgotten, not just because of its chilling details, but because it represents a turning point in how society viewed crime, punishment, and the hidden realities of organized crime syndicates. Fan Man-yee lived a life filled with hardship, and her death shocked the world. But her story is not just about tragedy. It's about the urgent need for compassion and justice. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of the most horrific and unsettling crimes ever to be committed. If you found this video eye-opening and disturbing, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. What are your reflections on this case? How do you think we can prevent such horrors from happening again? Remember, true crime can be unsettling, but it's important to stay informed and aware of the world around us. If you haven't yet, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and keep seeking the truth. And remember, every story counts.